stand up for yourself, and I'll back you up, 'cause problems don't solve themselves. I'll tell you what, instead of would or could, I think you should draw a line in the sand and stand your ground. It's for your own good.
Hello, my name is Roy Poyan, and I'd like to welcome you back to the Voice of Families and Addiction, our podcast addressing family issues. And today what we're going to do is start a series of 10 episodes on the topic of, well, it's not really reentry, and I'd hate to say that reentry is only in the concept of being released from incarceration. It's reentering life for the person and family members that have been dealing with substance use disorders. And you might say, well, there's an awful lot that Families Impacted by Opioids, our organization, which I am the founder of, that provides for us learning issues, how to respond. And this is more of one of those building block, like a chain building block of strengthening who you are. And we're looking at the idea that it would benefit us if we knew and we kind of reconciled with ourselves, who are we? Especially with all that we're going to go through. So if you are coming out of mental health, or if you are coming out of addiction in terms of an IOP or aftercare or residential, if you are coming out of incarceration, that moment there is a great time for us to take a look at ourselves and say, let's break down some of the known characteristics and let's determine who we feel we are and what we're going to do in order to use who we are in making decisions, in living our life, in planning out how we will move forward. So that's kind of what this is about. It's almost like Stephen Covey's First Things First, or Successful Habits of Highly Effective People. In this case, we're using the reentry curriculum, Merging Two Worlds, that's actually used by the state of Arizona in their corrections program for people who are reentering and need to kind of accumulate who they are, because they're at such a point that they do need to redefine what they were separate from who they are today, and maybe start to include those things that they are capable of becoming if they had a good game plan. So is this your life plan? No. Is this a come to yourself and understand yourself better? Absolutely. Does that contribute towards you creating a plan that you can then draw from what you'll do in these work exercises? Yes, it does. So what we're going to do in these 10 chapters, these 10 episodes, is we're going to go through every page, chapter by chapter with you. You could download this on our website, the reentry page. The website is familiesimpactedbyopioids.com. You can't purchase this through any source because it is a government publication that they had available at the Department of Corrections in Arizona. This is based off of true science, and a lot of empirical proven studies have contributed to its content. So let's get started. We're going to start you off on page 1 that creates the outline on the self-awareness section. And that's where they actually will start us in our learning process. Self-awareness is kind of understanding who I am for my values. What do I believe? What are my needs, wants, and desires? What are my goals? So it kind of includes all of that in the first chapter, and you'll see that when you download the PDF from our website. So now we're on page 3, and it's saying, what do I value in life? And we're going to read this as we're going through each page. So if you are listening to this on a podcast, then when you do get back to a place where you can download this and print it out, I printed it out and I used Avery tabs. I did double-sided printing. It wasn't too bad. It came out nice. I put it into a binder and then I tabbed it by chapter, 10 tabs in total. So in the first page, we're looking at using the scale written below. Decide how you would rate each value. So I'm going to give you a value and I want you to rate it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 being always important, 5 being never important. So 5 being the least of them, 1 being the most. Acceptance, agreement. 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5. Ambition. 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5. Appearance. You're rating these. Competence, creativity, education, emotional health, fairness, family, friendship, happiness, helpfulness, honesty, independence, leisure, love, material possessions, money, physical health, popularity, religion, security, self-esteem, sense of humor, success, and work. Now, I read those kind of fast because I'm assuming this sheet is in front of you and you're following along on page 3 with me. You would then basically say which of these is most important to you. And then we're going to start to say, okay, that's nice, but how much is it important to you? Our choices in any situation reflect our values. Okay, so when we make choices, we're basing it on our values. This activity gives you a chance to see how your values affect your choices in terms of spending. In other words, let's say I gave you money and you had to put a dollar value to each of those. How much money would you spend in order to possess acceptance? Because you valued it that much. How much would you spend in order to obtain helpfulness and make that a part of your values? So in this sense, you could be spending, up to $10,000, let's say, and you divide that $10,000 based on how you would dole out which is most valuable to you. I think that's very creative by the authors of this program, Merging Two Worlds. So now I'm on page 5, and we're looking at budgeting our values. And so remember that your choices will reflect your values that are most important in your life at this time. 5 years ago, they might have been different. This is true. Our values do change. 5 years from now, they probably will be different, reflecting your movement and growth over time. So now you're saying, well, these things were important to me, but now these other things are more important to me based on the fact that I have a family now, or I'm living in San Diego and not Montana, and my lifestyle has changed. So we're going to go through how much money you would spend, so you're budgeting your values based on a dollar amount. And there are 27 of these characteristics that we'll take a look at. The first, a chance to rid the world of prejudice. How much money would you spend on that? A chance to serve the sick and needy. A guarantee to become famous. An intervention that will bring you money and fame. Perfect understanding of the meaning of life. Well, that'd be kind of cool. A vaccine to stop people from stealing or lying. A chance to set your own working conditions. A chance to win stock in a successful company like Google, Apple, or Coke. To be president of the United States, the perfect love affair, the chance to own the perfect house with the perfect view. To be the most attractive person in the world, to live to be 100 with no illnesses. To have a complete library filled with your favorite books, to have harmony with God, and to do God's work. A way to rid the world of unfairness, the resources to donate $1 million to your favorite charity, to be voted most outstanding person and be in every newspaper, to master the profession of your choice, time with nothing to do, but enjoy yourself with all needs met. To be wisest person in the world, well, I already am. No, I'm sorry. I digress. A scheme to sneak truth serum into the drinking water. A way to do your own thing without hassles. A large room full of silver dollars. The love and admiration of the whole world. Peace of mind and your own powerful computer for any and all facts you might need. Those are 27. Now you put a dollar amount next to each of them. How much would you be willing to spend if you had that? Now here's the thing. Whenever you do kind of an assessment or a review, there's a key, a scoring key. And it tells you, of these weighted questions, how these fared out a less obvious characteristic of how you think, who you are, what you believe, what your values are. Each of those questions wasn't like put on this sheet of paper willy-nilly. They're well thought out questions. So on page 6, you're going to check to see what that activity you allocated money to means. Number 1 and 16 relate to justice, the quality of being impartial or fair. Number 2 and 17, humanitarianism, regard for the interest of others. Question number 3 and 18, recognition, being made to feel significant and important. Number 4 and 19 are achievement, accomplishing goals. Number 5 and 21 are wisdom, insight, good sense, and judgment. Number 6 and 22 are about honesty, straightforwardness, and integrity. Number 7 and 23, autonomy, able to be independent. Number 8 and 24, material wealth, abundance of material possessions. Number 9, power, authority to influence over others. Number 10 and 25, love, affection, attachment to others. Number 11, aesthetics, the appreciation and enjoyment of beauty. Number 12, physical attractiveness, concern and the appropriateness of one's body. Number 13, health, physical well-being, concern for the health of one's body. Number 26, emotional well-being, freedom from overwhelming anxieties. Number 20, pleasure, satisfaction, or gratification. 14 and 27, knowledge, the seeking of truth or information. And number 15, religious faith, communion and action in the behalf of the superior being. Wow. Okay. Now you probably noticed that maybe 3 and 18, when you totaled those, turned out to be $20,000. And that's like significantly more than any of the others. You see how this dollar amount creates kind of a weighted factor for you. So they're saying go down, and where you spent the most money, list the top 3 where you spent the most money. Isn't that creative? So now you have a better understanding of your values in terms of priorities. Which are your most important values? So my early values, and we're on page 7. People have dreams about what they want as they grow. What sounded good to you as a child may no longer sound good. You may feel it is unrealistic, but you may still want some of the values those dreams represent. Kind of like when I was younger, I wanted so-and-so. And then in the list below, on page 7, circle the values or reasons why you want that. Look at the list again, right below 5 values that are most important to you today. Have your values changed? So you sit there and you say, okay, these are all my values, and you circle them in terms of what you wanted when you were younger. And then you say, of these, which do I feel are valued to me today? And that helps you to understand and get a more complete understanding of how your values have changed. We don't want to confuse ourselves by thinking, well, when I grew up in Montclair, New Jersey, my values were this. And now, at Ohio State, my values are that. And when I was an artillery officer, my values changed to this. That doesn't make you a wishy-washy person or somebody without an accurate identity of your values. It means that your values are changing because you're changing, because your environment is changing. And that, by the way, is appropriate. So don't feel you have to hang on to the values of your childhood. That hanging on will create problems of its own that you really don't need to be dealing with. So now we're taking a look at page number 8 and the difference between what you value and the behavior. Make a list of your most important values. Write at least one thing you do, meaning that you act on, that shows that value. Let's see. Okay. There was a family dealing with a certain situation, and I knew that I could help them, but I could also see that they didn't want to receive help. They were too immersed in the enmeshment of the situation. So they basically stiff-armed and fended off anybody. And because I value the fact that they get to decide, even though what I can do to help them, they get to decide who is allowed into their family dynamic and when and where and why, that I held off from providing those services to them, although I made them aware that they were available, and I didn't push any further. That's my behavior based on a value of respect for others. I value very strongly respecting other people, and this was more or less how I exhibited that. You may do the same. So go ahead on page 8 and write down the 10 values, your personal values, and then write down a little kind of like ditty about, how have you demonstrated that this is something that you value in your life? Well, boy, we've looked at values. We've looked at our our values when we were younger. We looked at how they are today, and we're looking at our values in terms of behavior. I don't know if you realize it, but at this point, you're actually growing. You're growing because you're understanding your values more clearly. And I want to congratulate you. We're only on page 8, and I think you're coming along very finely. So now let's take a look at values in conflict. That's kind of like a rubber meets the road. Okay, I say I value this, but if you were really challenged and you had skin in the game, meaning the consequences of your values would fall on you or impede you and not somebody else, how much do you value it then? Smart guy. So that's kind of the framework. In the family rate high in the values, what choice would you make in the following situation? And so they present on page 9 a situation. Your friends want you to go on an all-expense-paid fishing trip with them next weekend in Mexico, but your daughter's birthday is next weekend, and your wife has planned a nice family birthday party. What do? Can you think of how to be considerate on all 3 of these values? Family, your freedom, and loyalty. How did you personalize these values? Well, basically, that's something that you have to kind of come to grip with. Here's the second scenario. Joe's parents love him and think education will help him get a good job. They think that a good job will allow him to be independent and make a satisfying life for himself. They want to go to school. They wanted to go to school every day, get passing grades, and earn a diploma. Joe says he respects his parents, but he thinks that school is boring. He can be a hard worker, but sometimes skips school to hang out around his friends. When he skips, he hopes his parents do not find out. What are the conflicting values? Do Joe and his parents have any values in common? Well, regarding Joe's values, being accepted by his friends, providing well for his family and his job, which makes him a lot of money and has prestige. Joe's wife, Lois, values a sense of accomplishment and caring at her job as a nursing home aide, low stress at home and work, time with their 2 young children. George thinks that since Lois is a registered nurse, she's underemployed at the nursing home. He wants her to work at the university hospital where she'll be a supervisor, have more status, and make more money. What values do you think they might have in common that would help them to talk about how to fight about and not fight about the situation? Well, these are all kind of real situations balancing against values. I value time with my family. I can't make that up. Once I've lost it, indefinitely. So we go into page 10, and we're looking at Uncle Mort leaves you money. And I'll let you go ahead and read that in terms of the condition. And there's actually 3 conditions regarding the money that he's left. And then, can you identify priorities? How do you prioritize on page 10, Uncle Mort leaving you money? So now in exercise 7 of values, we're talking about optional values and specific values. Usually people can name their values. However, often it is much more difficult to name actions that show your values. Well, I guess that's what we're doing here. Yeah, it is. We're deliberately saying to you, as a part of this curriculum, this 10-episode curriculum, we want you to develop a real truth to yourself in terms of your values. So I remember my mother cried with joy and pride when I graduated. She started working when she was 14 and had never received her high school diploma. And you go through these 16 kind of value challenging specifics. And it gives you an idea as to how do I set up myself? How do I set up Roy in terms of values? Well, this is a great place to start. Do these exercises and make them yours. Own this learning process, and you'll find you'll benefit greatly from it. But values are just one part of the equation. What we believe is true and believe is true to us, or believe has importance to us, those beliefs are just as important as what we see as our values. And I don't mean to get, diced up into words, but values are different than beliefs, okay? You may value something, but your belief might tell you not to use that value in this situation because it goes against your beliefs, okay? So can you change your perception in terms of beliefs? Sure. Stand on your head, and that will give you a good look at things from a different way. Can you change your perception of things in other ways? Of course. And your perceptions are changing all the time as you experience and learn and grow. Oh. Do you start to see why this is important to be included in what Families Impacted by Opioids is doing? We're a 501c3 education charity. Our focus is to train the family. If we were to just give you information and say, you're done, well then that would be irresponsible of us. And instead what we do is we say, now go to through these 4 learning modules in our Family Solution Final Learning series that was published by Wits End Consulting that we've kind of incorporated into our work. And from this education series, you can now learn and then use coping skills and then connect yourself with a provider that will help you in terms of responding. Well, that's a lot better, than just being given a book and say, now you know something, go away. We want you to be empowered with the ability to make solutions. But that's why we're including this. Did you see how we're now saying, and by the way, we want you to do that with values. We want you to do that using your beliefs. This is how you own the education material that we're presenting to you. And you might scratch your head and say, well, now wait a second, Roy. You said this was about reentry and getting ourselves organized after a situation so that we can move forward. Yes, but so is the Family Social Final Learning series. It's all about you getting organized, getting educated, and getting networked, okay? So these are all, by doing this, and congratulations, if you've carried yourself this far into what we're offering, I imagine you're really game on at this point. And I'm so proud of you. So I'm now on page 14, and we're looking at perception of values, perception and beliefs. So perception is the key, how we see things and what we believe we see in our belief system. What's our perception? Your perception is your point of view. Your perception is your opinion. It is your understanding of yourself and the world around you. It is how you understand things to be. It is your reality, how you perceive. This guy came into this place, he punched this person in the face, you saw it, but you knew that this person had just robbed him, and you believe that he has every right to punch that guy and get his money back from him. Kind of a rude scenario, but it was the best one I came up with. So with that in mind, you're actually using your belief system based on your perception of what it was that you saw. Do you see how it works both ways? From the action back into you, from you into the action. They offer a nice like psychology, what they call a black and white block. And many people have already experienced this, and it's, am I seeing a beautiful woman, or am I seeing an old lady and her nose and everything that's involving that? So that's kind of a nice way of helping us to kind of see. So what do you really see? I mean, is it the beautiful woman on page 15, or is it the old woman? And it's kind of like, well, I want to believe that it's the beautiful woman. Go figure. So with that in mind, that's how this picture is going to mean to me. That's my reality. So if you believe a certain way and you set up certain values, now we're going to get into more specific. Let's say you were just coming out of rehab and you're looking at yourself and you're saying, I am such a jerk for doing this to everybody and myself. And okay, well, let's go past that. By doing this exercise, you will, because you take that to the side and you say, wait a second, who am I? What do I really value? What is my perception in terms of what I see as being real? Because that's not real, okay? I'm not a bad person. I ran into drug addiction. Now it's a part of me, and I'm going to learn how to live a quality, successful, long life recovery and manage my life around this. It's not going to go away, but I'll be able to manage myself in a way that's going to bring me a quality of life that I can enjoy. That's because you are choosing to believe that, and that is your perception of your reality. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just because it's negative doesn't mean it's true, or it's more true than what is positive. Matter of fact, often the opposite is usually the case. So here we're going to look on page 16. A yes, no, or maybe. Am I optimistic? Am I pessimistic? Optimism meaning, am I positive? Pessimistic meaning, am I always negative? I keep my power to run my own life. I give away my power to run my own life. I lose control. You're saying yes, no, or maybe. I can make my life go the way I want it to go. I can change my thoughts. I can change my feelings. I can change my behavior. I am a victim. So based on what you just said, now, what are your beliefs that I have about myself? What are your beliefs that you have about the world? What are your beliefs about yourself as your place in the world? That's an important exercise for you to complete. We're going to move over to page 17, exercise number 10, and look at Roberto's story. I barely graduated high school. I feel I was lucky to get my diploma. Most of my grades were C's and D's. I paid a lot more attention to my friends than my schoolwork. So I never learned to study. I grew up feeling dumber than everyone else. When I got out of high school, I didn't even have considered a college or trade school. I went to work as a helper at a construction company and later became a carpenter. I learned to be good at my work and even better, became a supervisor. Several years ago, I hurt my back and I had surgery. My doctor told me I should find another way to earn a living, and that the injury would on my back would stop me from working. I decided to control my course and my old beliefs about not being smart enough. So for this person, their beliefs were actually a barrier, given that the new situation that was upon him required for him to throw out those beliefs and obtain new beliefs. I enrolled in a psychology course at a community college. I enjoyed learning about human behavior and received my degree. The experience changed my life. By changing my old beliefs, my abilities to get college educated changed my career paths. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of us that are coming out of rehab, mental institution, incarceration, and we have certain beliefs about ourselves, if those beliefs are holding us back. And so what this work is doing is it's saying, we want to challenge you. You may be a family member dealing with a child or a spouse that has a substance use disorder, and you may be telling yourself these exact same things. Your old beliefs are holding you back. And through this work exercise, you can change that. So we go into another exercise with David and Marcus, and I want you to take the time to read that. And then we're looking at, so how did Marcus, and this is kind of your template, how did Marcus believe his assumptions about himself? How did his beliefs and assumptions about his place in the world? What were his beliefs and assumptions about who has power over Marcus's life? And would he agree with you? And then do the same with David. Write down your own situation and use the himself, the world, his place, and power for your own self in a situation. Well, that's pretty cool, because what we've just given you is a success coping tool to help you look at your values and beliefs. Values and beliefs and your perception of reality are very important to kind of come to understand before you start to set goals. Because your goals are going to want to align with your values and beliefs, and your goals have got to be realistic. So as you start to look at page number 21, you start to see exactly what we mean by goals and creating a plan. And in this case, we're looking at Terry's story. And Terry was a manager of a sporting goods store someday, and that's what he wanted. He wasn't there yet, but he wanted to get to it. And she knows that this won't happen right away. She figures if she works hard and wants it enough, her dream will come true. Sports occupy most of Terry's life. She's athletic and has been good in almost all sports she's played. So when Terry is an average student, usually tries to do her best subjects are English and science. Her worst is math. Teachers often comment about how dependent she is. How dependable she is. Terry has a summer job as a lifeguard. She's glad that she makes pretty good money, and her parents can't pay for her college education. She hopes to save money for college. She wonders if she'll ever be able to get a scholarship. Terry doesn't know what she have to do to manage a sporting goods store. In other words, what would she need to learn at college and experiences to be a good manager? But figures she'll find out more when she gets to college. What is Terry's career path? What are her specific goals? I'm asking you to do the same storyline for yourself. What is your career path, and what are your specific goals? And then do you, replace the word Terry with you, have defined goals? Do you have defined, I have a defined goal, yes or no? Or you're kind of unsure. Well, if you're unsure, it's probably no. Can Terry meet her goals? Okay. You see, the goals have to be achievable. Otherwise, they're not really goals. They're just a whipping post for, banging your head against the wall, really. So it's okay to set short goals that build on your experience in order that you gain a foothold to accomplish a larger goal. So goals can be what they might call intermediary stages or stepping stones as you kind of walk up the stairs towards where you want to be. And then we're starting to look at goals in my lifetime. So now we're going to start to look at, well, so what gets included in goals? Well, learning, okay, leisure, spiritual, relationships, health and wealth, family, career, financial, citizens of the community. All of these are opportunities for goals. And in some cases, as we discussed, setting a short-term goal is probably the best way to achieve a long-term goal. And you'll see that on page 25. And then when we look at goals and objectives, well, objectives are, if I were to sit there and say, I want to go down to Columbus, Ohio. I live in Cleveland, and in order for me to do that, I need to, fill up the tank with gas, get some money from the bank, get a map, understand my travel. Those are all objectives for me to get to my goal, which is arrive in Columbus. So we set up objectives as building blocks that, once achieved, get us that much closer to meeting our goal. You may be sitting, if you're coming out of incarceration, my goal is to get housing in a safe place that I can afford, and then be able to move up from that housing to a better place, and just keep doing that as my life improves. So I realize that my first location isn't my final location. This is my perception of my reality. I believe that I can do that because I think that I can learn whatever it needs to learn in order to grow in my career, in my relationships, in my maintaining my health, so that I can get to the next level. So in one of the other areas that we're going to look at today is my needs and wants and desires. This gets kind of tricky. A need based a want. And we'll often say, this gets us into financial trouble too, as well as relationship troubles. I identify with the following as a need or a want or a desire. So on page 30, go through this list and identify for yourself. There's around 20 different categories, like car, telephone, cable TV, eat out once a week, and put down, do you need it, or do you want it, or you just desire it? So when we start to look at a matrix on page 31, we start to see transportation, meaning I want transportation. I want to be able to get to work, but I don't want to have to take a bus. So I know I need transportation, but I want to do it by car, and I desire that the car is a Range Rover. Well, let's go back to beliefs, values, and goals. And perception. Because when you start to talk about I want a Range Rover, that doesn't seem very pragmatic, or you're currently taking a bus as your primary, because that's what you can afford and that's what's available to you right now. I hope you found this reading. We're stopping on page 32, which is the beginning of My Personality, which will be our next episode. I hope that you found this to be of value to you, and that you take personal ownership in this part of chapter 1. We're still in chapter 1, by the way. And we'll go into another section in chapter 1 until we move on to chapter 2. Remember, there's 10 in the series. And I want to thank you very much, and hopefully we'll see you again on our next podcast, The Voice of Families in Addiction. God bless you. And if you need to talk with me, you can call me, Roy Poyan, Director of Families Impacted by Opioids, at 440-385-7605. I pick up the phone every time.
Stand up for yourself, and I'll back you up, 'cause problems don't solve themselves. I'll tell you what, instead of would or could, I think you should draw a line in the sand and stand your ground. It's for your own good.